Before we get into this juicy video, I have a question for you guys that I'm curious to see the different opinions in the comments. So the question is, how honest do you want your favorite celebrity to be? Do you feel like a public figure should always be 100% honest? Or are there things that are acceptable for them to lie about? Like maybe their families, their age, their relationships, etc., where they was born? Because in today's video, we will talk about this supermodel who was obsessed with lying and lied for fun. But disclaimer, in this era, a lot of supermodels, as well as actors and actresses and people, public figures basically, lied about their upbringing too. Just for press, just to seem interesting, they lied about their ethnicities. Some thought she went a little too far, and she was notoriously known for talking too much and for lying too much, even amongst her peers, where it just kind of gave her a bad reputation. But Suzy Parker, the dazzling beauty who blazed a trail as the world's first supermodel turned movie star, led a life filled with as much glamour as heartbreak. Her story is a tale of soaring heights and devastating lows, of fame and wealth mixed with pain and tragedy. Throughout her groundbreaking career, Suzy was on an elusive quest for happiness, a journey that seemed to end in disappointment, time and time again. In the 1950s, Parker reigned supreme in the modeling industry. Her striking features graced the covers of countless magazines, making her the face of an era. She was the muse for photographers and fashion designers alike. Her allure impossible to ignore. Parker was the poster girl for Revlon, one of the leading cosmetic companies of the time. Her face also adorned advertisements for Solo Products, the biggest hair care product company in the country at the time. It's worth noting that models during this era didn't sign exclusive contracts with cosmetic companies. In 1956, at the height of her modeling career, Parker shattered glass ceilings and set a new standard for success. She became the first model to earn a staggering $100,000 per year. In today's terms, that's like equivalent to earning over $1 million annually. This feat solidified her status as one of the highest paid models of her time. Parker's influence extended beyond the fashion world. She even inspired the Beatles, arguably the greatest band of all time. They wrote a song dedicated to her, a testament to her captivating charm. While this tribute never saw a record release, it did make an appearance in their 1970s documentary film, Let It Be. This film later bagged the Academy Award for Best Original Score, adding another feather to Parker's already illustrious cap. And despite the glitz and glamour, Parker's journey was a tumultuous one. The icon had a penchant for lying and even cruelty against other models. Though we love Suzy Parker, she was not shy about her diva side. We are going to get into all of that and more, but first, hey friend, welcome to my channel, Creen Allude, where we deep dive and break down the most iconic stars through history. If you're not yet subscribed, please be sure to do so, and if you're already subscribed, please turn on your notification bell so you never miss an upload. Now, without further ado, let's get into this video. And of course, we're going to start with her childhood, because her childhood was just as chaotic, and we're going to get into just how she became the Suzy Parker. So born on October 28th, 1932, Suzy Parker arrived in the world at the height of the Great Depression, a time of poverty and despair. Her birth was far from easy. She emerged blue and lifeless with no pulse to speak of. The room filled with sadness as everyone feared the worst. Yet in a final desperate act, a medical intern took matters into his own hands. In a shocking turn of events, he smacked the newborn and miraculously breathed life into the seemingly lifeless infant. Suzy Parker was born Cecilia Ann Renee Parker. Suzy's original name were derived from three of her mother's closest friends. However, her then teenage sister Dorian had a different idea. She suggested arranging the names to spell out the word crap, an unfortunate acronym. Her father George preferred the name Suzy, which she carried throughout her life until a French Vogue photographer altered its spelling to Suzy. Growing up under the strict supervision of her parents was tough enough, but Suzy also battled numerous health issues during her childhood. She grappled with severe asthma, allergies, persistent earaches, and pneumonia, making her early years a constant struggle. Moreover, Suzy's unique looks, her towering height, robust build, red hair and freckles, which would later become her trademark features, were a source of torment during her school years. She was mocked and ridiculed for her unconventional appearance, leading her to view herself as a monster. Enter her sister Dorian. Dorian found Suzy sobbing at the kitchen table and made a vow to help her sisters see her true beauty. Dorian, already a top model, insisted that the Ford agency sign her 15-year-old sister as part of the deal to represent her. The agency was so keen on representing Dorian that they agreed to sign Suzy. Dorian was part of the elite group of the world's first supermodels, which include Lisa Fonsgreaves, which I did a video for her. Oh, one of my favorite models of all time, just classy and elegant, and I will put her in the comment section for you guys and pinned in the end card so you guys can check it out. When the Ford executives finally met Suzy, they were taken back. They had hope for a petite, delicate, dark-haired, blue-eyed girl like Dorian. Instead, they found themselves face to face with a tall, big-boned, freckled, red-headed, with piercing green eyes girl. They feared they had made a terrible mistake because she didn't have the traditional classic beauty of that era. Despite landing a coveted modeling contract, Suzy's early career was filled with comparisons to her already successful and conventionally attractive sister, Dorian. However, Dorian didn't see her sister as competition. She introduced Suzy to the photographers who would eventually catapult her career to new heights. Dorian even pressured these professionals into working with Suzy, setting the stage for Suzy's transformation from an unconventional beauty to a global superstar. In a shocking turn of events, Suzy Parker's mother stumbled upon a scandalous secret. She walked into her daughter's room one day and found her in bed with Ronald Stanton. And I couldn't find any pictures for him, but he was Suzy's childhood sweetheart. The shocking discovery led Suzy to reveal that she had eloped with him. Suzy's wedding attire was far from traditional. Instead of a bridal gown or even a simple dress, Suzy chose to wear a bikini and a raincoat. Suzy was already a successful model, earning more than enough to sustain them both. However, they were young and incompatible, a disastrous combination that was bound to implode at some point. While working in the city of love, Suzy fell head over heels for Pierre de la Salle, a charming journalist. With her mind made up, Suzy returned home to Ronald and demanded a divorce. But Ronald wasn't about to let go of his cash cow that easily. Suzy's soaring success as a model meant that she was earning a fortune, a fact Ronald was well aware of. He agreed to a quick divorce, but only on the conditions that Suzy pay him a hefty settlement and paid the bill for his plastic surgery on his nose and finance his acting lessons. Comment below if a guy wanted you, like, okay, I'll divorce you, but pay for my nose job. How would you take that? That's just crazy to me. Caught between a rock and a hard place, Suzy agreed. Would you guys have agreed? And their divorce was finalized in Mexico in 1953. Tragedy struck years later when Ronald was killed in an automobile accident. But Pierre was not any better. Despite Pierre's numerous infidelities, Suzy continued to date him. Not only that, but she also bore the brunt of his extravagant lifestyle. They secretly tied the knot around 1957 or 1958, we don't know because they lied so much, keeping their marriage under wraps. We are going to get back to this marriage because he was no better than Ronald, okay? But while most models dream of landing a single magazine cover, Suzy graced an astonishing 70 covers. Her beauty and popularity were so overwhelming that Hollywood couldn't resist her allure. She transitioned into acting, becoming a force to be reckoned with in both the fashion and film industries. Legendary designers Coco Chanel, which I did a video for also. Just check out my Supermodel and fashion designer playlist. Actually, I'll put that in the comment section because Lisa Fonsgreaves is there also, and you guys can see who I've already done and who you want to request. But legendary designers Coco Chanel and Christian Dior didn't just admire Suzy, they were utterly captivated by her. Dior declared her the most beautiful woman in the world, while Chanel saw her as more than just a muse. She viewed Suzy as a daughter. And despite her success, Suzy was anything but conventional. She shattered societal norms and expectations, becoming the first supermodel by refusing to conform to the typical model behavior. Suzy was known for being talkative, much to the annoyance of those around her. But her loudness wasn't the only thing that raised eyebrows. Suzy was also a notorious liar, as we stated. She would spin tales so extravagant that no one knew the truth about her, not even her place of birth. One of her most outrageous lies was that she was descended from French royalty. When the truth finally came out, Suzy simply laughed it off. She found joy in tricking people, and she was unapologetic about it. From her scandalous elopement to her outrageous lies, Suzy Parker's life was nothing short of a rollercoaster ride. And some Hollywood people would say that, man, you never know with Suzy. You never know what she's saying if you should believe it. You have to take it with a grain of salt. So she just had this reputation that you shouldn't believe anything that comes out of her mouth. And of course, she was also annoying to people because she talked a lot. That's kind of harsh because I can say I'm pretty talkative. But people just was annoyed that she was already lying so much and then to be talkative on top of it. Comment below your thoughts. I love Suzy so much, but even Suzy herself would admit to this and laugh about it. She didn't think it was a big deal and she didn't really care what people thought about her. But Suzy. So Suzy Parker was playful, but she was also mischievous. She had a mischievous spirit with a penchant for causing chaos. Most notorious example of this is what now is known as the Miami incidents. Suzy and a fellow model friend were shooting for Vogue at a luxurious Miami hotel, a dream job in a dream setting for many. But Suzy was not many. She took it upon herself to add a dash of chaos to the glamorous photo shoot by pouring bubble bath soap into the hotel's grand fountain. It was like a huge fountain in front of the hotel, and she just came with tons of bubble bath soap and poured it there, and then you just see bubbles flying everywhere. The bubbles overflowed and wreaked havoc, much to Suzy's delight. The hotel people were annoyed. People were annoyed in general. They didn't find it funny, but she found it funny. But her mischief didn't stop there. During the same job, Suzy and her accomplice convinced photographer Roger Pringent to buy them a shark from a restaurant tank. You know, like those, not mini sharks. They're pretty big, but not huge, like mega sharks that be in those restaurant tanks. So they convinced Roger to purchase one of those sharks. They then unleash the marine predator into the hotel's swimming pool, causing even more fear and chaos with the guest. And of course, a lot of people did not find this amusing, but she just had a penchant for doing stuff like that. Comment below, what are your thoughts about that? What would you do? How do you feel about it? I'm really curious to see you guys' thoughts about that, because these weren't regular hotels. These were luxurious hotels, okay? I would be pissed. That's just me, but I'll leave it there. Comment below your thoughts. These pranks may have been outrageous and chaotic, but they were relatively harmless if you considering who you're talking to, until Suzy's competitive streak took a dark turn. Despite her radiant exterior and classy demeanor, right? You wouldn't think someone this classy would be doing these pranks. I told you guys in previous videos, I think it was my Rock Hudson video, that though they look so polished and well together like the 1940s and 50s, our grandparents were living. Don't let them fool you, okay? They were mischievous. I know they have elegance in the posture and the pose, but some of them were just living, okay? Suzy's competitive streak took a dark turn, right? Despite her radiant exterior, Suzy harbored a darker side. She was fiercely competitive and often unkind towards other models. In one savage incident, Suzy's penchant for pranks and her competitive nature collided with disastrous results. She took a pair of scissors to fellow model Anne Gunning's enviable long hair, pretending that she was only trying to help her look better in hats. And Anne Gunning, poor her, she stated she just trusted Suzy because she just appeared so nice, like a nice girl. So Suzy was like, let me help you with your hair. I'm just gonna snip this off, snip that. And she just like cut her, like butchered her hair. And Anne was mortified. Now, what would you do about that? That's where I draw the line. Oh my goodness. In reality, she had ruined Anne's career. The new haircut was far from flattering and it made her less desirable to fashion houses, so she could not get jobs for a very long time. And despite the fallout from her cruel prank, Suzy continued to behave badly. However, as the saying goes, karma always catches up. Kind of remind you of what they keep saying about Naomi Campbell, right? She was Naomi Campbell before there was Naomi Campbell, and I did a video for Naomi Campbell also, but check out my Supermodel playlist to enjoy that. So Suzy declared herself to be the best model and acted accordingly. Her diva behavior terrified fashion industry professionals. She had a take it or leave it attitude towards outfits, insisted on doing her own makeup and hair, and often took charge of photo shoots. Designers and photographers would even describe her as arrogant most of the time. And she would bluntly say, I'm not wearing this together. I'm not wearing this outfit. And they would just comply because she was actually a big deal. Just when it seemed like Suzy couldn't become more of a diva, Hollywood came calling. Fox Studios offered her 3 lead roles. It was an opportunity any actress would jump at, but not Suzy. She turned down all 3 offers because she wanted more enjoyable roles. This defiance led the studio to suspend her, but instead of being devastated, Suzy remained unfazed. However, a financial crisis was looming that would humble her. With her substantial earnings came a hefty tax bill. By 1955, Suzy owed $60,000 in unpaid taxes, which was a lot of money, an amount she did not have. As her debt grew, so did the threat of financial ruin, but help came from an unexpected source, Jerry Ford, a modeling executive. Ford not only settled Suzy's entire tax bill, but he also secured numerous lucrative opportunities for her. While this ordeal helped her avoid financial ruin, it also led to a significant transformation in Suzy. She became a lot softer. After her close call with financial disaster, Suzy became much more pleasant to work with. However, she still wasn't content. Despite her successful career, she didn't take her job seriously. To her, modeling was always only a way to make money, never any more than that. She was deeply unhappy and unsatisfied with her life, leading her to seek solace in undesirable places and people. She was a misfit in the glitzy world of Hollywood, hating the extravagant parties and substance-fueled lifestyle that came with it. Even the most sought-after Hollywood bachelors couldn't charm Suzy. She barely spared them a glance, much less a second thought. Her dissatisfaction extended beyond the social scene. Despite her success in modeling and acting, Suzy found no joy in either. Instead, she yearned for something more meaningful, something that would give her a sense of purpose. This search for fulfillment led Suzy to make some significant sacrifices. At the height of her fame, Suzy made a surprising move. She turned her back on her successful modeling and acting career and decided to pursue photography. She signed with the renowned agency Magnum, but it was a step down, to say the least. Suzy went from earning $115 an hour as a model to making a meager $115 a month as a budding photographer. And despite the financial setback, Suzy was hopeful that photography would bring her the satisfaction she craved. But fate had other plans. Her new venture failed miserably when not a single one of her photographs sold. Heartbroken and defeated, Suzy had no choice but to return to the industries she despised, modeling and acting. Suzy's personal life was just as tumultuous as her professional one. She was famously known for her quote about love, which I quote, "I love a man more when I am not married to him," end quote. Her disastrous first marriage seemed to have tainted her views on marriage. However, this outspoken hatred for marriage proved to be yet another one of Suzy's elaborate lies. Enter Pierre. Remember we talked about him earlier? Suzy's lover, future husband, and the father of her first child. Pierre was far from ideal. His behavior was deplorable, to say the least. A wealthy admirer once propositioned Suzy, asking, it was this wealthy guy who saw Suzy and was smitten. And Pierre was right there with Suzy, and everyone knew, hey, Pierre is with Suzy. But the guy asked, how much for a weekend? Instead of being outraged, Pierre responded and gave him a price. So he was trying to sell Suzy off to the highest bidder. And this happened a lot with models. They would marry these men and this would happen, which is just so sad. Despite her wealth and success, Suzy was bankrupt when it came to love. Her relationships were marred by men who exploited her for their gain. Pierre was no exception. He enjoyed a luxurious lifestyle, complete with expensive clothes and illicit substances, all at Suzy's expense. And I do want to say this, that I do think that's why Suzy wasn't as happy. And hurt people hurt people. I think the modeling industry became so toxic, it just brought out this ugly side of her sometimes. And that happened with a lot of models. I even did my Naomi Campbell video, and I go a little bit deeper into that too. I really do think there's something in the industry that just brings out the darker side. And look, you're with someone that is just offering you up, for the highest bidder. Can you imagine what that can do to your mental? That would make me mean too. Like, you're beautiful, you're glamorous, you're in the big screen, you're on magazines, but no man around you respect you. You're everyone's sugar mama, or they disrespectfully want to sell you off, have you dress scantily clad so that they can proposition you to other rich men so you can continue to fund their life. So I don't know, comment below your thoughts on that. Do you guys think that the modeling world can make people a little darker and mean? I'm curious to see you guys' point on that too. Their relationship was unconventional, to say the least. They dated secretly for years before tying the knot between 1958 and 1957, one of those years. But their marriage was far from blissful. Pierre was unfaithful, constantly cheating on Suzy. His betrayals didn't stop at infidelity. A tragic accident brought their troubled marriage to light. Suzy and her father, George, were involved in a horrific car crash. Their vehicle collided with a train, killing George instantly and leaving Suzy seriously injured physically and mentally. Suzy spent 3 months in the hospital recovering from severe injuries that left her physically and emotionally scarred, and she kept blaming herself for what happened. During her time in the hospital, Suzy's mental health took a severe hit. She attempted to take her own life several times, but was fortunately saved each time. However, this incident opened a can of worms. The press discovered her secret marriage to Pierre during her vulnerable state. Pierre's reaction to the revelation was appalling and disgusting, deplorable. Despite being exposed, he denied their marriage. He had spent years cheating on Suzy and living off of her wealth, yet he found the idea of being married to her humiliating. And I wonder why. Was it because allegedly he was trying to sell her off? I don't know. Suzy's marriage to Pierre de la Salle was far from blissful. A year after surviving the horrific car accident, Suzy found herself abandoned by Pierre, pregnant with their child. Pierre didn't meet his daughter, Georgia Belle Florian Coco Chanel de la Salle. Yes, that's the daughter's full name. A mouthful, right? Until she was 17 years old. That's when he met her for the first time. The child's name paid homage to the significant women in Suzy's life, including Coco Chanel, who is also the godmother. However, one name was missing: Dorian Lee, Susan's sister. The sisters, once close, had a bitter feud. They fell out. Suzy despised Dorian's promiscuity and neglectful parenting. Their relationship dwindled to such an extent that Suzy could not bear even a phone conversation with Dorian. Dorian also harbored a deep-seated envy for Suzy's success that she just surpassed, Dorian. In 1960, Suzy met Bradford Dillman on a film set, and sparks flew instantly. Both were still legally married to other partners, making their relationship scandalous. Nonetheless, they tied the knot 3 years later. Barely a year into her marriage, she was involved in another car accident. This time, she decided to retire, marking a sad end to the career of the first supermodel. Retirement often spells struggle for stars, but for Suzy, it finally brought peace and happiness to her. She was finally happy. She left the glamorous world behind, embracing motherhood and her large blended family. As the 1990s rolled in, her health took a nosedive. She was diagnosed with diabetes, a chronic condition that required constant management. But diabetes was not the only ailment Suzy had to contend with. She also developed ulcers, which turned out to be a near fatal affliction. When Suzy went under the knife for ulcer surgery, a routine procedure turned into a terrifying ordeal. Her heart stopped beating on the operating table, throwing the surgical team into a frantic scramble to resuscitate her. Though they managed to revive her, Suzy never fully recovered from this harrowing experience. She succumbed to kidney failure. The once vibrant supermodel spent her last years in perpetual cycle of hospital visits, medical treatments, and recovery periods. But Suzy was not one to surrender control of her life. Even in her final days, when she felt that her time was drawing near, she made a decisive choice. She stopped her medical treatments, left the hospital for the last time, and chose to spend her remaining days in the comfort of her home. 2 weeks later, Suzy breathed her last at the age of 70. Surrounded by her family who loved her dearly, the turbulent journey of the first supermodel finally found its peaceful end. And Suzy's life was a roller coaster that no one, not even Suzy herself, could have anticipated. It was a life that stretched beyond the runway and film sets. Even as her health crumbled, Suzy maintained her iron grip on control. She dictated the terms of her passing just as she had dictated the terms of her life. There was no grand funeral services or public eulogies for Suzy Parker. Suzy had expressly demanded it this way. Her passing was a quiet, intimate affair, devoid of any theatrics, a stark contrast to the flamboyant spectacle that marked her heyday. In death, as in life, Suzy Parker charted her own course, leaving behind a legacy as enduring as her spirit. She aged very gracefully, very beautifully, very gorgeously, and was classy till the very end in appearance. I just loved how she wore clothes. I loved her look. And I do think that she was just very hurt. There was a lot. Her mom didn't even want her when she was born. I don't know. Comment below your thoughts. I'll give her some grace and leave some flower emojis in the comments for her, regardless of how you feel, because she did pave the way. And I'm glad that she found peace in the end. She found love. And isn't it funny that they always find peace when they leave the industry and live a quiet life? This reminds me of Jean Shrimpton. I did a video for her also. The minute she left the modeling industry, she left Hollywood, she was the happiest she has ever been. That's crazy to me. So comment below your thoughts. I love you guys so much. If you like the music you're listening to, the link is in the description. Comment below else what you guys like to see and check out my Supermodel playlist. Until next time.